like I said, we're gonna get to Topalovic in a second. I just want to stick with Gnabry a little bit more, Jules, because I mean, Jan alluded to it there about Salihamidzic, the sense of, okay, who's in charge here, reading the room. I never saw him as somebody who was kind of problematic that way.
No, I agree with you.
But I also think it says a lot. Do you remember when Sergio Aguero, back when he was at City, when he flew to Amsterdam for the day, as you do, to go and see some cumbia concert or whatever he's into. And then he was going to fly back, and then he got involved in a car accident on the way back. He wasn't driving, whatever, and it was just fine. I mean, there was no issue there. I don't even know if he needed permission from the club or if he got permission from the club, but City totally went to bat for him. Here, it means a lot when they don't go to bat. And we in the media, Jules, Salihamidzic's really going in really hard.
Yeah, really hard.
Two-footed, you might say.
Yeah, two-footed. Knowing his temper, and Jan knows him better than us, it might be not surprising. And it felt like Gnabry didn't have the permission to travel, a bit like Tchouaméni didn't have the permission from Real Madrid to travel from Madrid to Paris.
It felt like, or do we know? Do we know? And Jan, do you know? Jules, do you know if he had permission or not?
No,
if he needed
we
it?
don't know. We don't know 100%, but I think it's worth to say that sometimes, in a team, we are all equal, but there are some more equals than others. And I do see that when a leader like Salihamidzic is having a go at any of the players, there are two players he always single out. That is Gnabry and Leroy Sané. And that is one of the reasons, because if something happened with the other boys, they are easy targets for him. And Gnabry and Sané could be because of their body language, because then you can see when they're not feeling good or doing well on the pitch. But I think that I won't excuse Gnabry on this one, because I think that like we talked about, this is about the analyzer you have of the situation, and I think Gnabry shouldn't have done it. Quite easy. I mean, he's a professional footballer. He has to prepare. There are so many games coming up now for Bayern. So call me old-fashioned. Go rather to the Fox and Hounds farm in the neighbor village and do that.
Well, but I wonder, guys, he's right. There are different rules for different players. Not everybody.
Yeah,
I think in some ways it is smart manager. Diego Armando Maradona famously got away with a lot more than Bruscolotti would get away with. But I also wonder, from the perspective of Bayern, when I project forward a couple years, who are my important players going to be? In other words, a couple years, Neuer, we'll get to him. We don't know if he's coming back. Muller will be a lot older, not as important. Who's going to be important at this club in a couple of years? I would assume, obviously, Kimmich and Musiala.
Yeah.
But beyond that, the ones that we know that the club are heavily invested in because they spend a lot of money on them and they're on big wages are Sané and Gnabry. Those two guys that Jan mentioned. I mean, unless there's somebody I'm forgetting.
No, because there's not that many German players anymore anyway, to be fair. And Gnabry is, there's a contractual situation there to be resolved as well. It's just, if you think about, they went on to this summer training camp, obviously in Qatar. On the back of that, Salihamidzic was like, who loves talking, as we know, was like, this was great. The boys worked right. I love a training camp because you get all together. It's brilliant for team spirit. He was going on and on and on about that. 2 draws in a row, not playing well at all. And you could say that against Leipzig, maybe lucky to even get a point, and certainly against Köln, lucky to get a point. The Gnabry issue, the Neuer kind of Topalovic issue in a way as well is there. There's clearly a lot of unhappiness there. Nagelsmann changing 2 players at halftime in the Köln game, and in 3 weeks' time is the PSG Champions League game. And if they get knocked out by PSG in February and March, then you can just imagine the crisis and maybe the repercussions for Salihamidzic. We saw Julien the other day, Jan, going on television, doing talking about Harry Kane already, when Julien is not really involved in the club anymore. He's nothing really, not technically. And you just think okay, this is FC Hollywood for a reason, because there's always a bit of drama somewhere. And now it started maybe even earlier than we thought in this new year.
It's weird. We have these stereotypes of Germans, planning, discipline, blah, blah, blah. But then in the end, you mentioned there, it's been FC Hollywood for a long time. And by the way, it's not just them. Obviously, Borussia Dortmund, we tend to giggle about them almost every week. And on top of what Jules said, Jan, we have the situation where, of course, this weekend, Bayern may be joint top at the top of the table this weekend because they travel to take on the mighty Eintracht.
Mighty!
And of course, Union Berlin, equally mighty, just 3 points behind. How big a threat is this Eintracht game?
Well, I think in a position they're in, everybody will say it's so typical Bayern then to win 4-0 and Gnabry probably score 2. I mean, that is the Bundesliga. But if you see the Bundesliga table at the moment, there are 4 or 5 teams very close. So we can hope that at least 2 of them will have some good runs now, that Bayern will be threatened. But Eintracht Frankfurt, they had a kind of lucky. They should never win 3-0 against Schalke. Kevin Trapp was one of the best players in that game. Then they had a 1-1 at Freiburg. So I think that Glasner and Frankfurt, what they have learned to do is to go to places like Bayern and play their game. I mean, they play a great game. There are no worries in their game, and I like that attitude, and I think that could play for them in Bayern. But we all know when that lion Bayern is struggling a bit, there is some dentists coming and brushing these teams and they're attacking. Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know what? I because I'm old and because somebody reminded me of this just before we started taping, I believe Eintracht Frankfurt beat Bayern at some point in the mid-90s with a phenomenal late goal by
late winner, you mean?
A late winner, that's right, by a tall striker. And I believe they have a tall, athletic, very handsome striker right now who scored, of course, against Freiburg and Colomwani
as well. Why didn't do that in the World Cup final?
Could Colomwani, is he the new Jan Aage Fjortoft, Jan?
Yeah, I can't remember that game. I can only remember that there was a Norwegian who chipped a goalkeeper. That goalkeeper wasn't that good. It was only the best in the world, Oliver Kahn. So we shouldn't talk about. Rune Bratzeth was still in Werder Bremen. He was playing, but he was there. But you're right, Muani, what a player, and Jules, of course, he will always be remembered for that World Cup final. But Muani, I mean, but boys, he will. I mean, how much will he go for this summer? How much will he go for this summer? He will be one of the a lot of money.
Yeah.
Colomwani?
Yeah, they signed him on a free from Nantes, and we saw the story during the World Cup. You know, a very late bloomer. Not really went to an academy, and then at Nantes, after being on loan to a third division team, really now exploding at Frankfurt. With Glasner, I think he really enjoyed the team there, the city, the environment. He's been great at assisting goals. He's been great at scoring goals. He's been great in Europe. He's been great domestically.
I think it's 6 goals and 10 assists this season. 16 goal involvements, as the kids like to say. Let's get back to Bayern because, let's face it, there's a lot more Bayern fans out there than Eintracht fans. Tut mir leid, but it's true. Is Tony Tapalovic...
That's an amazing story.
Okay. Other than the fact he's got an amazing name. But so this guy has been at the club as a goalkeeping coach since 2011. You mentioned it, super tight with Manuel Neuer.
Best mate.
The reason he's been let go, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Jules, is because the club found that he was sharing private conversations within the coaching staff with some of the players, or as players plural. Obviously, your first instinct is it's player singular, and it's the blonde goalkeeper that loves skiing. Jan, it strikes me it's a kind of infraction that, you know, if you want to keep somebody, you look the other way. If you want to get rid of him and send a message, perhaps, here's a good reason to get rid of somebody. Am I wrong in the way I'm reading this?
No, you're not at all. I think that what they told he has done, talking to players, he's probably done that for 12 years at Bayern. So this was it was all about the timing and what they did. I think that a big challenge for that kind of relation, not only did it came at the same time from Schalke with Manuel Neuer. So you can understand that the manager will feel threatened that there is an institution in there with a goalkeeping coach that is a part of the coaching staff and still so close with a player. So that was one reason. It was also the reason that Nübel, the goalkeeper who is in Monaco, complained that he never spoke to him, which is bad because he is on loan from Bayern. That is bad. There was also the thing that he never trained the young goalkeepers at Bayern, that he was only concentrating on Neuer and maybe Ulreich. the assistant or the reserve goalkeeper. So there was a lot of things. But Gab, what are you right in? If you want to get rid of someone in a dressing room, you will always find a reason to get rid of you, because there is always things like that going on at the football club. So I'm going back to my first point, that I think that they now feel. I mean, this is a sign that Manuel Neuer's standing is not the same at Bayern. They are, if I may say, pissed at him because he did a bit of skiing, and they also have a fear that he will never, or they will maybe thinking that he will never play for Bayern again, and that's why they brought Jan Sommer in.
Let's go back to this point about Manuel Neuer and what. Well, first of all, just as a reminder, after the World Cup, he went skiing and he suffered a very, very bad injury. He's certainly not going to be back this season. In terms of the repercussions of this, there's several layers to it about, what you should as a professional, what activities. I mean, you can be the best skier in the world. It's still something, there's a higher risk than playing golf.
Yeah.
Although Gareth Bale might beg to differ on that one. But this is very loaded. Should it turn ugly? And should it turn ugly? And I'm going to think like a lawyer, right?
But don't you think it's turning ugly now? With the
it's already ugly, but it can get a lot uglier. And the reason I say this is that because of Neuer's injury, Bayern had to go out and spend 8.5 million euros to bring in Jan Sommer, right? Because had they continued the rest of the year with Sven Ulreich, who knows where they'd be. No disrespect, Sven, right? So that is a cost. There's the cost of Sommer's contract as well, on top of that. There's Neuer's mate who they just fired, who clearly not Nagelsmann's favorite, and yet was part of Nagelsmann's staff. I just wonder if at some point some lawyer, some vermin lawyer, as many of them are, comes crawling out from under his rock and says, "Yeah, wait a minute, Manuel Neuer, you have cost this club 20 million because you were irresponsible." Now, there was no clause. Reportedly, there is no clause specifically banning him from going skiing. Many clubs do have certain activities like going skiing or riding a motorcycle above a certain amount of cc. Apparently, reportedly, Bayern do not have that clause, but they do have a clause about Jules' dangerous behavior, right?
Yeah, but technically it's not a breach of contract. The fact that he went skiing, it was not forbidden for him to go skiing.
But a lawyer can go and argue.
Yeah, I'm not sure he would win, though.
Well, we don't know, but I'm saying, could we reach a point where Bayern feel like, and Bayern have shareholders, by the way.
Yeah.
And Bayern are very proud of the fact they've been profitable all these years. If this cost them X amount of money on top of it, I mean, could we reach a point where they go out and they scapegoat, or if you don't use the word scapegoat, but they hold Manuel Neuer to account?
Yeah, and to make it even worse, if this was an American drama, we'll have a lawyer and he will say that these 20 million will lack them in the transfer window, which means that they will not get the success, blah, blah, and so on. So, exactly. But I think that I think that is sorted. I think that Bayern will be very annoyed that they didn't have that specific thing. Back in the days when I played, we had that as a line in our contract. I remember going summer skiing in Norway, and I told them, if something happened to me, make sure that you take me to a football ground, that I lie down and take off my skiing clothes. They don't have that. But I think that what they have done since that, and Manuel Neuer being a very, very popular Bayern player. He is a leader in the team. He was a leader for Germany. We remember all that, these action they did. He and Goretzka was the one who was doing it, very influential. So this is also a power battle in Bayern. And by taking out the goalkeeping coach, I think they are doing as strong as they can do in the present situation. Oh, wow, do they go for it? Manuel Neuer, I mean, 12 years at the club, won everything, very influential, and they take out his best friend, his goalkeeping coach. So they are very, very annoyed what Manuel Neuer did.
But I mean, we don't know when he's going to come back, and that injury might be even worse than what we thought originally or whatever. But nobody's going to come back from his 2-year loan at Monaco in the summer. Right. You'll have. I mean, Sommer is more than a number 2. He's really a number 1. I mean, you can say that he hasn't been as good as Neuer. He's not. He's a little bit younger, not much younger, but a little bit younger. But he could be a number 1 at Bayern without problem, and nobody would say, "Oh, the goalkeeper is not good enough," right? So, if you know you're like, okay, they've sacked Apalovic, they've signed a guy who can easily be the number 1 here. Plus, they've got the next Neuer, really,
Right.
coming back to the club. So he must feel like, okay, they don't want me anymore. I'm not welcome anymore whenever I'm coming back from my injury.
And I think
I don't think Nubel will never play for Bayern. I think that that won't happen. I think they had the idea to do that, but if you see that discussion has been discussions, as we say in a marriage, which is a quarrel. I mean, there was everything Nubel did and said. So I'm not sure that he is coming back. Nubel also see that they brought in Sommer.
You don't think that Tapalovic was the problem? That maybe now that he's gone, Nagelsmann can say to Nubel, listen, you come back, you and Sommer will fight for who's the number one. You can still play a lot. I mean, I agree with you. And Nubel hasn't been that impressive with Monaco. And he's been good at times and he's made a lot of mistakes at other times as well. But it just, I don't know, if you're Neuer, it just looked like it's starting to turn against you.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that when Bayern at the time, there was a lot of discussion in Germany, was it the right thing to take Nubel? Remember then, apparently Salihamidzic had told them you get so and so many games, and Neuer said, no chance, my friend, you won't get any. I will play a Rot-Weiss Essen away in the first round of the German Cup. There was no chance that. So I'm not sure that they can mend that. But Jules, I agree with you. Maybe this, by firing him, saying that a part of that was Nubel's complaining that they were never in contact. Maybe that is to try to build a bridge to Nubel. But Nubel will also see that in Jan Sommer is not. At the moment, Nubel is not better than Jan Sommer.
But remember, we had Jan on when there was all the contract situation with Neuer. Because remember, they took a long time for him to extend his deal. You know, and there was a point where we wondered even if he was going to extend and stay.
It was 2 years after this one, right?
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, the new deal was. So now he's still okay, like contract wise.
It is, but as you know this, Jan, if you can't play, if you're injured for more than 6 months. They can start a procedure to rescind your contract. Now, the reason clubs don't do that is because it's not a straightforward procedure, and obviously they want players to be able to come back. But 6 months is a tipping point. If in the meantime they say, well, we have Sommer for, who's 36, will do us for another couple of years. We have Nubel as a backup. Maybe Nubel comes back after Sommer leaves. Who knows, right? Hey, Manuel, can we be grown-ups about this? What if we just cancel the last 2 years of your contract?
You're 45 now.
We'll save this money on you. No, and you can go back, see if they'll take you back at Schalke. I'm sure they won't. But you know what I mean? Like, it's that kind of situation where it could reach this breaking point. And I just find it extraordinary because after Thomas Muller, and maybe, this guy's, you see him as Mr. Bayern. You remember back when he joined from Schalke and it was this massive betrayal.
Of course.
Because of his links because of just love for Schalke and the Schalke fans. And he dealt with all that bile and he went to Bayern and he won everything that there was to be won. For it to end like this, it would just be pretty horrendous.
Yeah, but I think that in every war, in every discussion, we always look for an exit. And I think that is one of the exits, that you can sit together as grown-ups. But I think in the moment you fire his best friend and goalkeeping coach, I mean, I think that train is gone. I think that Manuel Neuer will now sit somewhere or train somewhere or whatever he is for his rehabilitation and think, they will not get it easy with me. I got more years on my contract. There is more money, blah, 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 blah. So I think that for the time being, that train has gone and Manuel Neuer is not on it.
All right, final point on this. Bayern going to Bayern because there's reports that they went and they've already reached an agreement with Konrad Laimer from next season. Now, this business, we've seen it happen so many times, right? Sabitzer, Upamecano, all the way back. Neuer, back in the day, of course. Lewandowski.
Goretzka.
Nagelsmann, at least they paid for, right?
Yeah, but still, Nagelsmann, they take the best coach that could challenge them.
Yeah.
This doesn't sit well with a lot of people in the Bundesliga. People have grown accustomed to it. So it's, it's kind of like sort of the frog going in the boiling water. But yeah, I'm just going to ask you flat out. Does this leave a bad taste in your mouth? Is it somewhat unethical to you that you have a league where somebody says, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll just slow roll my contract and wait and go join a rival in one go.
Yeah, but first of all, it's interesting to see that if people were going from Manchester United to Liverpool all the time, or from Tottenham to Arsenal all the time,
On the free, yeah.
Yeah, on a free or whatever. And Bayern have done this for years, from Werder Bremen over Dortmund, now Leipzig. They just take the best players away. That would make a bad taste for you. But we all know, and I say that in a friendly way, that we all know that the German football is Sopranos. Sopranos, and there's run. And you can also see now, and when they also see now, they have a task force. And then Tony Sopranos comes out again. They are here. They're the same people who's been here for 60 years. They're going to now say what we're going to do the next 60 years. And that is Germany. That's why I love Germany, because I love Sopranos. I love football there. But I can understand when we're on Twitter or social media, have to have a fight with everybody saying that this Farmers League kind of thing, that they just take the best player, they take Nagelsmann, Upamecano, and now Laimer for maybe the main challenger for the titles. I can't understand that. It's hard for me to find arguments in terms of players. That is the options they do have, and the players have also the chance that. Ask some of the Dortmund goalkeepers when they came back from summer holiday and were told that they were sitting in the stands. So it goes both ways in terms of the rights of the players. So Laimer is just using his right. Is his moral good? Is it moral good to fire or sell a player? So I think that is okay. I'm more worried for the brand of German football.
So but if you're Laimer though, I mean, maybe you can't send it to Bayern. Maybe because of the extra money you're going to get compared to Leipzig. Maybe because at his age, and there's Nagelsmann, of course, there already. But maybe you say, okay, you can't refuse Bayern. I don't know. Right. But you already have Sabitzer, who has done the same as you and hasn't worked out. Kimmich and Goretzka look pretty strong. You can play Musiala a bit deeper as well. So if you're Laimer, you're going there. You're not going to be. You might.
I think you need another body there. I think you need another body in the mix. I think they're light.
I'm not saying from Bayern point of view. I'm saying from Laimer's point of view. He's going there really wise?
I think he's going.
How many games is he going to play?
It's what he wins silverware, makes money, and gets to say he played for Bayern. I mean, I think as far as neutrals are concerned, the fact that it's Leipzig who are losing out here means it's not going to be such a big deal, because, let's face it, nobody in their right mind likes Leipzig, unless you're from Leipzig, I suppose, or you work for Mateschitz. But yeah, in this business, the analogy you made with what if Manchester United had picked off all the best players from Liverpool and Arsenal and City over the years, maybe we'll get that, because obviously, as you know, Manchester United are up for sale. And obviously there's been reports that a major sovereign wealth fund, in fact, I believe the biggest or second biggest sovereign wealth fund in the world is going to take over the club.
Yeah, and don't listen to
it. As part of you could call it sports washing. I don't know that they have much to wash up there.
Yeah.
And put you in charge. Is that true that Norway's sovereign wealth fund is one of the 2 or 3 biggest in the world? Yeah, he's nodding. And it's true that they're going to buy Manchester United and put you in charge, right?
But Gab, that is funny, because I asked, and Norway is a bit smaller, and I asked once our prime minister, I said, why can't we use the money to buy some English Premier League clubs? And he was not sure that I was joking. But it's interesting. I mean, 2 of the biggest clubs up for sale, but I'm not sure that Norway will prioritize that with the prices and energy crisis we have in Norway. Can you imagine Norway have an energy crisis with all the oil gas we're having? But that is another podcast.
but surely a sovereign wealth fund buying a football club would be great business. Otherwise, I mean, Qatar and Abu Dhabi and they wouldn't do it, right?
Just when we finish on Bayern, the good news is Sadio Mane back running, not training yet, running. I think he might be short for the first leg of the PSG game on February 14th, but probably for the second leg he might be back. So at least that's good news for Bayern.
Yeah, and not so good news for Paris Saint-Germain. Jan, as ever, an honor and a privilege. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.